Since ancient times, human beings have had an urge to know more about themselves. Old people went to babas, tarot card readers, fortune tellers, or
चलिए देखते हैं कि मैं अंकल भतीजे का बनूंगा या भतीजी का।
that. In the modern times, we know that almost all the internet companies, behemoths and small ones alike, have been collecting our data. Meta's Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, Swiggy, Zomato, you name it. Or at least Apple is on our side and not collecting data, right? Oops. Collection of public data is inevitable. And while some companies have fallen in the trap of public and government agony over the collection of data, one company has not only used this data to serve their audience better, but as of second quarter of 2022, registered a miraculous 188 million premium subscribers worldwide. So let us understand, what is Spotify? How did it leverage the user data and turn it into one of the biggest advertising campaigns of recent times? And as entrepreneurs and students of advertising, what lessons can we learn from Spotify? First things first, what is Spotify? Well, Spotify is an online music streaming platform that was founded by Daniel Ek and Martin Lorentzen in 2006 as a small startup in Stockholm, Sweden. Now, a few years ago, there was a free music downloading website called Napster that had gained notoriety with music labels. Because of Napster, people could download music for free. This led to a major court battle that ended with Napster getting shut. But the need for music on the internet was not going anywhere. As a kid, even I remember there were pirated websites like songs.pk in India to download music for free. Finally, to save the music industry and sell music online came Steve Jobs, who introduced us to iTunes in 2001. He reaffirmed a world where we can listen to songs online without committing fraud. However, one had to pay money to iTunes for each song or album they wanted to listen to. Although it was a major leap forward from Napster, this was not the most feasible option either. Now, while the big brains of the world were still figuring a convenient way to beat the piracy, a small startup in Stockholm, Sweden was developed as a response to the growing piracy problem that the music industry was facing. In an interview with The Telegraph in 2010, Daniel, the founder of Spotify, said, "I realized that you can never legislate away from piracy. The only way to solve the problem was to create a service that was better than piracy and at the same time compensates for the music industry." Now we understand the need for a music platform existed when Spotify was launched. But the road to making Spotify the biggest music streaming application was not easy. Although Apple Music released in 2015, which is 9 years after Spotify, it was the nepotism kid of iTunes and Apple. Apple Music quickly rose to the second position. Today, as Spotify dominates the market with 31% market share in 2021, Apple Music is second with just 15% of 524 million global listeners, followed by Amazon Music at 13% and YouTube Music at 8% of global subscriptions. So the obvious question rises in our head. How did Spotify, a small startup out of Sweden, beat the industry leader Apple? Apple, which has a history with iTunes, which launched 5 years before Spotify, which supposedly offers very high sound quality, which boasts of a library of over 90 million songs as compared to Spotify's mere 70 million tracks. And overall, Apple attracts millennials and Gen Zs alike. Am I right? Well, Spotify won the market with their game of advertising. This brings us to our next question. How did Spotify leverage advertising and churn out one of the best advertising campaigns in recent times? Well, as I mentioned earlier, technology, specifically AI and ML, have empowered the internet tech companies to follow the rule of personalization in the most creative possible ways. For example, the videos that appear on your YouTube homepage are carefully curated to your liking and will not be same as compared to the person sitting right next to you. Brands like Instagram use this to understand your social interaction and suggest more engaging content. Zomato uses it to understand your taste in food to provide curated options based on your habits. So the rule of personalization helps brands boost user engagement, customer loyalty, and thereby boosting their sales and revenue. Using the leverage of this data, Spotify has aced the advertising genre compared to their fellow competitors. Spotify understood that their primary target audience is millennials and Gen Z and made relevant advertising campaigns across different countries. In India, ad agency Leo Burnett created some beautiful ads for Spotify around the festival of Diwali and Valentine's Day with notable faces from the film industry. After the success of these ads, Spotify further made more and more relatable and neatly conceptualized ads like The Flight of Music, Traffic Ke Dun, Breaking News Hits, and more recent ones like Feels Like a Party, Breakup Beats, and Love at First Listen. Well, okay, Siddharth, understood. Spotify made some really cool ads to attract their target audience and did so quite successfully. But that's it. A few ads. All companies do market research, choose their target audience, and make ads. But that wasn't it. The most genius advertising campaign by Spotify across the globe till date is Spotify Wrapped. The roots of Spotify Wrapped were sown by an in house creative team back in 2013. In an interview, Alex Bodman, Vice President and Global Executive Creative Director at Spotify, said that a few smart folks at Spotify approached him and asked, "Hey, we have all this data of songs and artists that people listen to across the globe. Will anyone be interested?" Guys, when we say data, it wasn't just a matter of few clicks to sort from. Furthermore, it wasn't some common curated playlist of famous songs. The amount of data that Spotify had to deal with had 7 billion hours of listening only in 1 year of 2014. Now remember the rule of personalization that I talked about earlier in this video? Well, the curation of playlists had to be personalized, not for a country or a region. It was personalized for every single user of Spotify. The first iteration of this idea back then was named You're in Music and released You're in Music in 2014. It was just an add-on feature for users to look back through their last 365 days via songs and artists that they listened to the most. Your in Music had personalized data like the kind of music you listen to, the number of minutes spent on music throughout the year, your top favorite songs, your top artists of the year, etc. In another genius move, Spotify also made sure that this individual data was shareable across the then popular social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Now remember how I referred to the human urge to know more about themselves at the start of this video? Well, that came in handy. People loved knowing what kind of music that they have listened to, which artists have they discovered, and shared them across social media platforms with their friends. This Year in Music feature was an instant hit and Spotify had over 5 million site visitors that year and more than 1 million social media shares. This is when Alex Bodman and the team of Spotify realized that they have hit an advertising goldmine. After that, there was no looking back. Everyone across the globe had very personal reactions to this feature. For the first time, such a detailed data was provided, and for a change, the users were not only happy that their personal data has been accessed, but shared it at the top of their metaphorical voice across the internet. 2 years later, in 2017, Spotify repackaged Your in Music campaign to Spotify Wrapped, and since then, it has only gotten better each year. Other companies did try to catch up on this, but either it was too late or it wasn't too classy. Sorry, Apple. Earlier, Spotify Wrapped was available on their official website, but the 2020 Spotify Wrapped was the first time it was exclusively made available for mobile users. And guess what? Spotify Wrapped 2020 was single-handedly responsible for increasing Spotify's mobile app downloads by 21% in the first week of December. Since then, every year, Spotify has upped their game with Spotify Wrapped and maintained an edge over their competitors with brilliant advertising strategy and the use of technology. With such a massive hype, I can't wait for what Spotify Wrapped 2022 has for us. This brings us to the final question. What lessons can we learn as entrepreneurs or students of advertising from Spotify? First and foremost, When Spotify started testing its year-end review, the predecessor of Spotify Wrapped back in 2014, Spotify was already a market leader with 60 million active users. This means that Spotify was a great product even without its on-point advertising campaigns. So the lesson here is, without a great product, you cannot last too long in the market. Advertising doesn't necessarily get you on the top of the leaderboard, but it can definitely help you stay on top. Second, if an advertising campaign integrated with technology works for another company, it's not necessary that it will work for your company. Around the time Spotify came up with the year-end review, Facebook launched its own version of Facebook Memories, where you can see your pictures and posts on Facebook from previous years. While it worked initially, it did not create any lasting effect and got annoying after one point. Finally, the Spotify Wrapped is not just a blend of data plus advertising done right, it's more than that. What made a huge part in making the campaign work here was an immense word of mouth online. So the next time you are creating an advertising campaign for your brand, instead of adding a slide of the benefits that your brand will get from the campaign, add a slide of what consumers are gaining from your campaign. Thank you so much. If you really like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Also, a little word of mouth goes a long way. So do share this video with your friends and tell us what other advertising campaigns do you want to know about. Thank you so much.